Call to order the Climate Resiliency Committee meeting at 6:48 p.m. We have one item on the agenda, order number 22-1008523, information from Mass Development PACE program, the Property Assisted Clean Energy Program, and the impact/opportunities. So in the packet, there's been a couple of things that have been included, including a copy of a PowerPoint presentation, a report from the PACE program, and potential wording about what we would have to pass through the committee. I'm hoping that the councilors had a chance to review the material, and we can either, first let's have a discussion, because I think at some point we need to approve the wording that would go to the main body, but I just want to make sure that if there's any issues or concerns that people want to raise, they get raised. If we need to revisit this and get some more information before we make a final vote, I'm fine with that too. But just want to go around and talk about what people have seen, what sort of impact it has. So I'll start with the fellow members of the committee. Laura, do you want to start? Or?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my understanding that we need the mayor's approval for this, and I came to this tonight wanting to hear more information, more details. I can't say I'm still super clear on it, but I have some concerns about that they're in place. It's not as popular as I would have thought, so there's elements to this that must be of concern. The lien on the property feels like that floats to the top for me, so it feels complicated. I'm still trying to figure out the pros and cons, but a big thing is if the mayor isn't on board, then I'm not sure how we move ahead, so I was hoping for some clarity on that tonight.
Okay, I did talk to the mayor. His one concern was to do more with what's the financial benefit, or if a business has a project for renewable energy, some sort of retrofit or whatever, they can either get it through the funding through the PACE program or through another bank. The PACE program basically creates a betterment so that the payment happens up to 20 years through the tax program. The other way, basically, it would be a standard loan from a bank for renewable energy. And the mayor asked quite validly, what's the difference? And there seems to be, it gets very much into the legalese and might need something to get some additional information on. What I was able to understand is if a business is an owner-occupied business, then there are some clear benefits as far as the funding for the project doesn't get onto the books of the business, but actually goes through this betterment clause, and then basically it is an operating cost of the building because the tax rate has increased to cover the betterment for up to 20 years. So it seems to be not as much of a issue, or it seems to be not as much of a benefit if it is a landlord and tenant, in which case then basically at the end of the day, whoever operates the building gets significant savings for the project in the operating cost of the building. So this does not pass at all unless there are blatant savings that way. But if basically the tenant, the landlord still has to approve this because they're going to end up paying for that, and then they basically have greater rental rates for the owner, for the occupier, because now he's got a greater expense. So that's about as much as I was able to understand from discussion with the mayor, aside from getting a straight letter from him. Anyone else? Councilor Landers, you have?
Yeah, well, I was hoping, Councilor, you went to the Zoom meeting, I believe, and I looked through this material, fact, I went through it a couple of times. I guess I want to know who makes out on this? You know, I mean, I know we're all green, you know, people from most of green, and that's, I think, supposed to be kind of a lot of it. But city benefit, does the owner of a
Your mic.
Does the owner of a five-story building or a five-tenant store, I mean, unfortunately, Counselor, it seems like it hasn't taken off because it hasn't had a good start, or people don't see the value in it. Now, we won't talk about the fact that it eventually helps, you know, the green. So what did they tell you at your Zoom meeting, that where's it going, why hasn't it gone better, and, you know, why should Marlborough do it?
So, in the way that they covered in the Zoom meeting is effectively any improvements to the property increases the tax rate of the property. So the city benefits because that property now has an increased tax rate for the improvements that
I understand that part.
So that's first. Second is the occupier of the building, whether or not it's an owner occupied or a tenant occupied, they have lower operating costs, because that's the whole idea of these types of projects, is you basically reduce the operating cost of the building through insulation, better heating
Yeah, the
systems.
different improvements that can be
Right,
made.
those improvements are benefiting the occupier of the building. The owner basically ends up with the more valuable building because these improvements have been done. So there's the basic wins for all three parties involved, okay? The investments that are done, they can be insulation, window treatments, new roof, solar, geothermal, any of those to be done. And I think because we have a group, Marlborough Economic Development, which is always trying to retrofit existing buildings, I think that this is a big opportunity to help them go to an older building and modernize it, get it to be more energy efficient. The reason why they're claiming that it hasn't really caught on much is because of COVID. Now, the reason is, and I've seen this happen before this talk, where basically there was a lot of work in the renewable energy space for corporations to improve reduce their carbon footprint. Okay, I was working with a group at Computer Associates, and they were using technology to basically monitor HVAC systems in data centers so that if the temperature goes up too much, then they would actually have to start shutting down servers if the air conditioning didn't work. But the same thing holds true just in normal offices and stuff. And the issue happened when COVID created the lockdown and people started working at home. The businesses weren't as much worried about what was the efficiency of the buildings when they were basically empty because people were working from home. So that was not on their radar map at all. They were kind of like, okay, we'll worry about that later. Also, when I was talking, I knew people that are in the renewable energy business, and they were hit hard from COVID because of that reason. People were not focusing on making the buildings more energy efficient. They were just trying to make sure that their employees were safe. And I think that, we're at a point where, we're getting in 2 years into this COVID thing, and people are starting to figure out, when they go back to work, how often they stay at work. Do they go in for 5 days or half a day, and how are the job shifts going to be rotated, and do they really need as much office space as they are? I mean, during COVID, there was a lawsuit because you had a bunch of employers based on 128 and 495 tech workers that were traveling down from New Hampshire. Their offices were in Massachusetts, but they never went into Massachusetts all year. And they were saying, why are we paying Massachusetts sales tax? Okay? Those are more priority at that point than actual renewable energy stuff. So that's why the renewable energy kind of took a back seat to this stuff.
Mr. Chairman, you mentioned somewhere in your report, without naming them, do you think there's a need, and you think there's companies in Marlborough that would move on this? I don't think we ought to name any of them.
Okay, yes, I do. I think that there are a couple of large owner-occupied buildings that are headquartered in Marlborough, without using names, that getting involved in a project like this would actually be something that would end up in their annual report. And because it have an impact on changing their corporate headquarters to be more green. So I definitely see that, without using names.
But that's the key, for they be more green.
Huh?
All
That's
right.
the whole thing. It's, at the end of the day,
Now, they wouldn't save any money on this, though.
Yes, they are. At the end of the day-
Tax write-off?
the project has to save money versus cost. And there has to be an ROI analysis done
Yeah, you
by a
mentioned
reputable
that, yeah.
firm, to make sure that's done. It's not only just the big companies, it could be the small independent companies that have an old warehouse space that was converted into something else. But,
I don't know what you're talking about.
so, but,
Having said that, if you don't mind jumping in, for me, I don't understand the process, just because now if I want to turn around and sell, so say if I have a loan for $500,000 through this program.
yep,
I have to pay it off when I sell my property.
no, you don't.
Well,
it's
it
a-
goes to the new owner,
The
potential
true.
buyer.
So
So that
when I-
means that now they were gonna devalue my property $500,000, because now they have to pay for that.
No, because first is the $500,000 was an improvement in your property, right? So it brought it
Right,
up that
so
much,
if-
because it was an investment in
Right,
the
so
property.
if I take out 500 for the loan, I
Right,
wanna sell my building and my salon for $1 million.
sure.
So the potential buyer is like, okay, I'm not gonna give you a whole million, because that's what you want, because you have a $500,000 loan. So
Depends
why
on-
would I pay 1.5 for something that's only valued at 1 million?
So, first depends upon how quickly you flip this thing. Let's, if you make the investment and then churn it the next year, then, okay. If you may have that type of situation. If, on the other hand, you've been holding on to it for 10 plus 15 years, the loan can go for 20 years. And it is a betterment's tax refund. So basically, what the bank makes out money because it has a guaranteed revenue stream for up to 20 years, which is basically, the terms that you're buying from them, hypothetically, in this case. And if as you go further down the pike, as far as, you're holding it for 5, 10, 15 years, the amount owned on the property obviously becomes less and less. But when the company buys into it, they look at basically the cash flow of whatever the payments are left over the remaining terms of the loan, and then do whatever the value of cash or whatever to make that happen. So if that becomes part of the negotiation, because you can't sell this off early. If you sell it, whoever buys it still has to pay it off at the rate that was agreed to at the beginning. But it doesn't mean that the entire loan is discounted off the property. It would be whatever value it would be left. And usually when it comes to those types of investments, if you're going to invest a couple of $100,000 in a building to improve its energy efficiency, envelope, whatever, it's going to increase the value more than that. And not just the amount of what you put into it. Now it's worth more because the project's done. And therefore, you're taking it off the new value of the property versus the older value. So it's not, when you invest money into a property, the investment usually has a bigger return than just the amount of money you put into it.
You hope.
If not, you're not doing a good job, but yeah. So, but at least understand the logic of that, right?
For the most part, yes.
Good, okay.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Council Lambert.
carry this out. So if you put $500,000 into the building, the city reaps the benefit because it's an additional personal property tax on that. But does that necessarily make the market value of your building more, that $500,000? So is that maybe part of the reason that this hasn't one of the factors that this hasn't taken off? Good CPO, CPA, or, you know, you might analyze that and say, well, it makes us look a little better, makes us look a little greener, but in the long run, it's not.
At the end of the day, the investment has to have a positive return on, you know, positive return as far as operating costs. If you're going to put solar panels up on the roof or something like that, you know, there's going to be savings in electrical bills from that. You're going to be getting SRECs, tax rebates, all that. And all that money that you're deducting from those assets is part of when they look at the project and say, okay, you're going to get this much of a return.
Does solar panels on a roof, either residential or industrial, does it make a building worth more?
That's my understanding, considering I have solar panels on my roof.
That'd be interesting.
And there's a difference. The reason why, it's the difference between whether or not the panels are owned versus the panels being leased.
That's true.
Okay? And in this case, with the PACE program, it is owned. There is nothing that can be leased. It has to be owned. So it has to be part of the property asset. So that's why, I mean, you know, I saw this, and it was pretty solid as far as what the proposal is, and I think the reason why it hasn't really caught on much is because it got caught up with COVID. And I think that's one of the biggest issues, because people were not focusing on retrofitting buildings. They were just trying to figure out how to keep them, you know, clean, you know, safe medically. So, yes, Councilor. Oh.
You should have a chance, wait.
Okay, well, I'm not on the committee, so I wanted to defer to you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am in favor of this. I first was familiar of this in 2020 when it first came out, and kind of brought it forward to some people in the city because I did think it was a net positive, and just wanted to highlight the municipal opt-in, right? People don't have to take advantage of this program, right? If they want to do this type of betterment, they're able to. If they don't want to, they don't have to. It just allows that possibility in the city, which I think is a good idea. And then looking at, you know, it already exists in 26 states. So even if it hasn't really skyrocketed yet in Massachusetts, I do think it's during COVID, right? It first came out in July of 2020. That would be not the best time to launch a new program in my eyes. And then looking at the municipalities that have opted in, there are some really big municipalities in here. I see Gloucester, Fall River, Boston, you know, and I do think that just allows that growth to be possible. I think it's just another tool in our toolbox available to businesses, and I think that that is a good idea. And then overall, you know, I think kind of working through what it looks like, at the end of the day, right, like you said, the energy cost savings must exceed the cost of improvement. So overall, it's going to be maybe a long-term gain, but I think we want, you know, people in the city and these businesses to stay here a long time. So we're hoping that we get to reap that benefit of the long-term gain. So I think this is a really good idea. You know, other municipalities have already done it. And as we said before, right, let's just see what happens. If something wants to take advantage of it, we have the wonderful resources of groups like MEDC to support an effective use of this PACE program to make sure that we're getting it at businesses that really are going to reap those benefits and improve the city overall. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Some of my questions were answered. I appreciate this conversation, and it does, you know, thinking long-term, the state has some really ambitious goals towards carbon reduction. So I think the only direction we have moving forward is we're going to start thinking about new buildings very differently and the level of efficiency, and that means existing buildings there's going to be an increasing demand for retrofits, and having a tool like this available for anyone that needs help with financing to be able to get it feels like a good thing. So as our role as city council, what I would weigh is it going to have any kind of burdensome or negative impact on the municipality? And it doesn't, my understanding is it doesn't, and that there is other municipalities that have done this. I think we need some real definitive clarity around what does it look like in the tax assessor's office. Like, is it so burdensome we have to hire someone new to manage this? Is it no big deal, it's all handled electronically, it's just one more thing that shows up in your bill? So that would be, we need to be super clear on that. We'd need to have clear buy-in, I think, for the mayor, which I don't see what the downside is. If it isn't burdensome for the community, if it doesn't require increased expenditures, then benefits us. And again, there is going to be an increasing demand, I think, for sure, moving forward for people looking for ways to retrofit their buildings to make them meet the demands as we move forward and reduce carbon pollution reduction, greenhouse gases. So it feels like not a big leap, not a big risk, as long as we could have clarity around, for sure, be able to, I would think that the mayor would need to know that for sure. Does it burden the tax collector's office in any way that's unreasonable? Is there like a cost for us to implement this? And then other than that, right, as Councilor Perlman said, it's not like it'd be mandatory. Everyone now has to do this. It's an option for somebody that wants to improve their building, and here's a way they can do it and finance it. And like what Councilor Dumas was saying, I can't imagine anyone would spend the money and then think they could just turn around and sell the building. It's more for like, I'm in Marlborough, I've made an investment with my business, I need to green this building, here's a way for me to do it in a way I can afford it. So it feels very beneficial in that respect.
Thank you. Councilor.
I'll yield to Councilor. Thank you, Chairman Doucette. So,
Yes.
Chairman Doucette, as he mentioned, both of us were on the call or on the webinar. I have had conversation with Councilor Doucette on this as well. So some of my concerns. So there are 51 cities and towns that have implemented it. There's only 2 businesses that have taken advantage of it. All right. So I heard the exact same thing. It was COVID. Okay. Well, if it's not COVID, then I'm going to say if we wait a year and see if some business came to us today and said we want to get into PACE, I'd say okay, I'd be interested in looking at it. I'm still unclear as to the impact, as Councilor Wagner mentioned, on our assessing office. Because what this is, if you're going to get $500,000 addition to your building, you're going to, and I'll leave the interest part out because that math gets higher, right? So that's 20 years you get to pay it off, 25 grand a year, $6,250 a quarter gets added to your tax bill, or that individual, your tax bill, that's the betterment portion of it. I'm still not, I don't know, can we do it? Probably. Do we know how to do it? I'm hesitant to go jump into a program that we haven't heard from the people that are going to run the program here, what their thoughts are, all right? I mean, unless you read it, we didn't get a whole lot of details as to what's involved in this. And again, what I heard was 51 cities and towns, only 2 companies have taken, one in Greenfield, one in Boston. So that raises a flag to me. Is it the way we're running it? Is it not attractive? Is it unable to be able to run in this town, city that it's in? I don't know, but I don't have enough to go that quantum leap that says, yeah, I'm going to go back at this point in time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Arson. Councilor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll echo the carbon reduction. I think that's a major plus for this program, and I will also echo maybe we can find out any detriments to this to the city. Do we need more additional services? Will there be a detriment when they're paying the additional taxes? Why isn't it? I think you are accurate about the COVID, though. I think right now, with the price of fuel, fossil fuel is going to drive this right to the point it should be at. I think this will help reduce our reliance on fossil fuel. I think we need to do that, and we need to entice businesses to do the same, and I think this will help. So you have my support on this program, but I would like to hear those details that were questioned. I think that's important to hear as well. But I'm 100% in support of reducing fossil fuels, and something like this will do it.
I just want to continue around the loop, so Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'll point out 2 things. I did not have the ability to listen to the webinar, but I did see this. I did suggest to Councilor Doucette that he watch it, and if the mayor was in agreement with it, that it would be brought to us. But on page, I don't know, there's lots of material here. On page 1 of the PACE material, the paragraph does say that it is for reducing energy, but it very specifically says eligible measures for renewable energy and natural gas line extensions to supply gas to replace electricity or other fossil fuels. So to me, I thought that would be a negative for Councilor Doucette, because you're now saying, okay, I'm going to switch from oil to gas. We don't want people to switch from oil to gas or electricity to gas. We want, and it doesn't say that they'll pay to switch from gas to electricity. I guess they probably would, because,
There's no utility charge for that.
yeah. But I just thought it was interesting that was their big push, to get people to sign on to natural gas.
May I?
I also, I guess my concerns are the same that Councilor Ossing, what the impact is to our assessing office to add the betterment. We don't have betterments in Marlborough, so we don't know how to do it. Is it easy? I guess, to me, that would be something that the mayor could find out, and I guess that would have to be the conversation. Is that the stopping point for him? No, I'm not going to do it because of the added job description to the assessor's office, or whoever it is that does our taxes. Even the form may not have a place to put that betterment. So I think it's unfortunate that the mayor is not here to be able to kind of have some discussion with him. I mean, the council could move to approve it, and he would say, sorry, I'm not signing off, and we would know then that it's not happening. And I guess I also, COVID can be blamed for a lot of things, but I think if somebody really was concerned about wanting to improve their building and they knew this was available in a community, COVID wouldn't have stopped them from doing it.
So as far as, COVID, you can agree or disagree on that, but,
Yeah.
and it's going to probably split down the council on that one. But as far as, you talked about the gas line, or extensions of gas, that was specifically for electric radiant heat. Because I'm not sure where it was buried, but I remember seeing that, and I was like, oh, is that, because I was concerned similar to you, but radiant heat is the least efficient, as Council Landers may know, source of heat for any type of situation. So converting that to natural gas is cheaper. There's the reason why the other one is basically replacing oil or home heating oil, and again, that still ends up being more green. So you're eliminating the use of heating oil and converting to natural gas. And they're allowing that to be part of this program. There can be other things as far as cogeneration, all the other stuff as well. But, those were the conditions that they said, okay, this is why natural gas can be extended. Effectively replace home heating oil or replace radiant heat. This is still, as far as mass development, they're thinking of this as, stimulating business, driving economic growth, and helping communities thrive across Massachusetts. This is the moniker of mass development, which is where the PACE program comes from. But the DOER is part of this as well. So, anyway, is there any other councilors that wish to speak at this point?
I totally missed the methane gas part of it. I saw the renewable energy systems, missed the natural gas. Natural gas is a fossil fuel, and I wouldn't want to see any investment in increasing infrastructure for fossil fuels is increasing our dependency on fossil fuels, which is completely counter what this is supposed to do. And I think there's so much information here, Councilor Chair. I really appreciate Councilor Roby pointing that out, and we'd need more time to really assess this, and I know I could not, this is completely counter what this is supposed to be doing, and couldn't see this money paying to increase our already over-reliance on methane gas infrastructure. So I'd need more time. This is, I couldn't support this the way it is now.
Okay. Councilor Landers, you got your hands up?
Council, it gets so confusing out there. In Boston, there's a big move now to turn off the gas lamps that have been in Beacon Hill for years because, of course, they're all well, it's all natural gas that does it, so it gets so confusing. This has to be looked at. I'll be honest, Mr. Chairman. Because sometimes, I gotta be careful on this, but sometimes because we back something out there, people, not so much big business, but someone that has a, 5-tenant house or something, because the city votes on this and passes it, we're a little premature on this, that someone would jump at it and get themselves in a situation that really doesn't work out for them. That's the only thing. Are we ready for it? Not the city itself, but the residents, or the 5-story buildings, or the 5-tenant buildings, and big business. I mean, they have the big shots that can figure out whether this is financially advantageous or not. So, I don't know.
Councilor Perlman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's kind of building off the conversation, and I appreciate what Councilor Roby raised. From my understanding of the staff at PACE, I'm sure that they'd be very open to answering very specific, tailored questions that could be relayed to the council or to come to an additional meeting, even virtually, just because it does seem like there is a lack of clarity on some aspects. So I would recommend that as a possibility. And I did want to highlight, I guess, on page 6 of the visual PowerPoint part of the presentation, it does list that nationally over 2,500 projects have been financed through the program, and specifically the most in hospitality and office space, which I know are obviously high here in the city of Marlborough in terms of a breakdown. So I'd be curious to see some of their more explicit comments beyond the tailored presentation that's for a broader audience to say, okay, Marlborough, in your situation, here are some of the more specifics. And it seems like their staff would be responsive to that.
I've actually reached out to the members of the PACE program. They were not able to make this meeting. They had conflicts with other city meetings. But they'd definitely be open to show up at this. But I think also we need to find out what's going on and get the view of the tax assessor's office. I know also that the mayor's trying to put a betterments clause for sewer in place as well. So we're going to learn how to do betterments one way or another, it seems. So just what's the process on how betterments are done would probably be worth getting clarified. You going to add anything else, Councilor?
I just wanted to say, for the interest of time, if we can just get that homework and bring it forward to next, so if we can motion someone from the committee, that would be great.
I'd like to table a motion to postpone this issue to the next meeting.
I'll second that. I think that's the key, postpone. I'm not, no way am I ready to vote this down. It's just that I think postponing it.
Yeah, a motion, oops. Motion.
Oh, I thought you made a motion.
I move to postpone this, and while we can further investigate the concerns.
And it'll be seconded by Councilor Landers.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
All in favor?
Oh, we vote.
Okay, vote, sorry. Vote
So
to postpone?
To postpone, right.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And then I move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, approve,
All in favor?
all in favor? Okay, meeting ends at 7:22.
1 minute.